To go to a location, you really just have to delete it from the map.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's kind of awkward.
Oh,
I'm
it's
still
left.
learning some of the weird nuances in how NPCs move. I'm on now? Hey!
Right. Perfect.
Let me select scenario.
Oh, the best scenario, or one of the best.
Okay.
Survivor, of course.
No,
Yeah, just joking.
We're playing this on easy because
Yeah,
I wanted. The goal is to do this deathless, which is difficult. Even on easy, there are several snags where people can die, and there's just many moments in the game where you can get a death due to RNG, even on the easiest difficulty. And then on the hardest difficulty, you just it's a battle like on the hardest.
Actually, real quick before you start, did you add the devs?
The what?
The devs.
No, I totally forgot to.
Yeah, do that real quick before you start. I mean, you don't have to. You don't want to. I just only recommend.
I can add them.
Are we live?
That's what I'm told.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah, by the way, I'm Laser Long. I was learning this game, and I'm just here to learn. And Gandair's gonna.
What is their Twitter?
Twitter? It should be their. Should just be their. Just search Frostpunk. That should bring it up, I think.
How do I do that? I don't really do mobile, so
Yeah, should be. Just bring up, I think, Frostpunk, and it should bring up like a related tweet to it. I think they go by their studio name handle.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know.
It might have to call it on that one. It's gonna be a little bit more effort than I expected to be able to.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but if anyone wants to tweet at the people that developed this game and let them know that the speedrun's happening, please feel free to do so. Maybe one of them's awake somewhere and we'll see it.
Tweet them at 13-bit studio. Thanks in advance, chat.
And let them know that's gonna be on. I gotta move my mouse pad around again.
There you go.
I was playing Diablo 3, and what ends up happening is my wrist will bump into the mouse pad and will scoot it all over the damn place. I need one that's like about, I don't know, like 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet if they make a mouse pad that big.
All right.
Okay. Are we good to get started? Cool. The time starts after I close the first like text box in the beginning of the game. So I will hang on that for a moment, and then I'll let you know. Also, I do want to say I've never played it in windowed mode before, so
that should be interesting.
I have a small concern about me over scrolling to the side and clicking off the screen because it does lock. Okay, it wasn't locking in the menus.
Good game.
Never mind, we're good.
It's a very good game.
Man, developers they've got their stuff together.
Thank
I really
God.
like it.
Big shout outs.
Even this loading screen's pretty. Look at the loading circle. It's like rotating in two different directions.
You're learning a lot, but if you read the tooltips, heads up for anyone who doesn't know.
We roam the still.
I would skip that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a really good cutscene. Okay.
It is. We have to survive.
Time to bundle up, boys.
Okay, after I hit OK, that's when time's going to start. If anyone wants to do a countdown or anything like that. Cool, let me know. We'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, first thing we do, ironically, is we pause the game entirely because we need to build some stuff, and we don't want it to count against our. We need to build a few things, and we don't want it to count against our time in the first day because time management at the very beginning of the game is ridiculously important. You need to get a lot of resources in very, very quickly. So the start is always a little bit slower than the rest of it because you need to.
Perfect.
You need to make sure you do some things at the very start. Otherwise, people start getting sick, people start dying, and then everything goes terribly wrong. Put them people there. Put them people there.
Essentially, if he does all this in real time, while he could speed up the game, he could make a big mistake by not getting enough resources before the first day ends.
Yes.
And by the first day ending, that's when work shifts end. Until he gets extended work shift, he can't do anything right until like the next day following. And by getting the child labor laws, he increases the workers he has with children and allows him to gather more materials before the end of the day, which allows him to build what he needs. Because on the first day, while it's pretty chill even on easy, you're gonna have cold drops come as they start to come at some point, and he wants to be prepared. He also needs to really start building up very quickly to get very specific buildings and tech. Because if he doesn't have tech to get exactly what he needs, he's gonna have a really hard mid to late game. Primarily in the late game, because what the strategy he wants to do is want to get automatic units instead of using human workers. Because in this game, you get a lot of options to do. And as you see right now, he's getting very important things. Tents for building that allow your people to stay inside, because if they don't, they'll sleep near the generator, which on like easy, it's not the worst thing, but obviously that's a huge risk, because every day, where their activity is throughout the day, they're going to get cold. He can switch from the heat, and he can tell where people are at, depending on their temperature. But he's also going to need a workshop, which allows him to get some upgrades. He also will eventually build a cookhouse, a care center for healing. I'm sorry, medical post. That's a little later. But essentially, his shift's over, and he's got everything he's need. Once the shift ends, all the population will start building, even the children. Okay.
The heating is off, of course. At the very, very beginning of the game, you really don't need to mess with coal for the first night. You can get away with that. That's something that really only works on the easiest difficulty. If you try doing that on the higher difficulties, you can have like 50 people die on the first night. It's absolutely absurd. But thankfully, because of the one that we're on, it's not so bad.
So you notice every time he does a new law, there's a cooldown on it. So it's the balance to pure Brent players from obviously just getting new laws rapidly. But each time the new law comes off cooldown, you need to get it right away, and you'll generally how the run is set is you'll have an understanding of which laws to rush into, and then as you go along, you're gonna get another tree later on, spoilers alert, that'll allow you to keep discontent and hope in a reasonable area, but also help keep people alive, whether it's via cold or increased production, depending on what path you went. Right now, he went child safe jobs. This is pretty much for him later on to keep the children alive, because if children work in dangerous areas, they can end up getting killed or actually getting hurt or amputated, or they can get frostbitten. You notice he just got a text box there. As the game progresses, you're going to get these little events that occur, and the game's telling you like, hey, so-and-so is dissatisfied, or so-and-so thinks like this is not how it should be done. Sometimes you'll have an option, sometimes you won't. It just depends on where you're at and how you triggered a sequence. There are some consistent events that do occur, but generally they're not super important in the run. Not all of them.
Hey, we're getting the beacon researched, which is one of the most important things in the game, because the beacon gives you access to scouts, which will send out into the frozen wastelands, and they are going to do a lot of gathering. It's day 2. We can turn this on for a little bit overnight.
So I noticed, Gandair, you're saving. Do you save the cookhouse later on till day 2, or are you? When do you build that?
I generally get those going pretty soon here.
Gotcha.
I want to get these roads made. Once I see that these things have run out,
right?
That's when I know roughly in game that okay, now I have time to be able to do this this other thing.
And of course, another quick question: he built gathering posts, which is obviously very, very smart, because in the game you can assign your workers to just go to a pile. But with a gathering post, for those who don't know, a gathering post can collect all, like right there. He dropped it on that coal pile, those 2 coal piles, so the people working that gathering post can collect from both, and it makes a more efficient gathering instead of sending an individual 10 on each pile. Because he won't have enough to just send everybody. Even with child laws, it's still not enough.
They put the beacon when you build the beacon that gives you access to your scouts. You put it way at the. You try to put it way at the back as far as you can, because it really doesn't need heat or anything after it creates the people. Get a couple steelworks going, put those way in the back. Hey, I placed that road correctly, that first one.
That's right, really solid road placement.
Pretty good. Okay, now we need to start getting down to emergency shift law.
So the law he wants to get next, emergency shift is okay. It allows you to pretty much pop an extra emergency despite whatever time, 24 hours, on a particular area, which will cause some discontent, but allows you to keep producing, which is really good in particular for like workshops, because you can keep getting research and get a really, really quick head start in technology, which is super important. especially in harder difficulties. If you don't have those workshops going, and you rely on laws only, it's going to be really difficult. There is another law he's going to probably pick up, which is adaptive shifts, or I could be wrong. It's the next law after emergency, which increases the shifts, which allows even more production and more value out of or all his buildings.
There was a small mistake I actually just made. I accidentally left the generator on during the day,
right?
Because I don't have a lot of coal going yet. We're gonna get charcoal kilns going pretty soon here, and during the day you can reduce the what's the word I'm looking for? During the day you can reduce the power level of the core heater in order to save on coal, because during the day it is warmer. Now we have to escort the survivors to the city because this is supposed to be deathless, and some of the deaths in this game are just to RNG.
So regarding deathless, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Does that mean so with like outside of your city, obviously you don't want anyone to die, but does that mean you also have to save every single survivor out in the?
No, actually.
Okay.
Because only citizens that are inside your town that actually trigger the death notification matter when it comes to that.
So it doesn't matter, like, so there's a limit to who you save, or is there a route set for the outside world? Or
there's a rough route that I follow.
Gotcha.
I'm still kind of tweaking it and working on it. Now, there's a reason we don't go and do extended shifts in this one, because if you do extended shifts, on a 24-hour shift, there's a chance that the person will die from being overworked. So we don't mess around with that in Deathless category, because that is just terrible.
And you would sustain life here?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That way you can treat gravely injured in medical huts. If you have to, but they might become an amputee. We're going to go down the amputee tech tree later on, so that's really not going to be an issue if it happened early on for some reason, though. I mean,
and one last question. This is a little early to say in the run, but you're going to go down. You're going to do the Fall of Winterhome core gathering, right? Or trigger that at least.
I don't remember all of the names of the things.
You're good. I'm assuming you're just farming the power cores, right?
Yeah.
For the automatons.
Switch that finally. Now that we have enough people for it. Put the engineers in here.
So as you notice, he's trying to make sure that every building is meticulously staffed with the right people. If you staff the wrong people in the wrong areas, it can lead to some big problems. Like having a kid work in the steelworks, while it doesn't seem like it's the worst idea to have children work in dangerous environments, it's actually a really awful idea. Don't do it. But generally, he's trying to keep from people dying, and children have a higher risk when they work in dangerous areas like coal thumpers, steelworks, anything that has anything to do with production outside of cookhouses and workshops, I assume. Well, can they work in workshops?
So what ended up happening there is I didn't get the houses built in time at the end of this phase. And I lost a couple people to that one, unfortunately, because my eyes were in the wrong place. So this is what happens when you do the any percent route. Okay.
Listen, everyone. New law is brace yourselves. Cold is coming.
There we go.
Get going.
Take the resources from there. Remove these guys on down to the steel bridge. But yeah, that one was unfortunately not RNG. That's because I was too busy staring at my steel count and not looking at the bottom of my interface there.
This game gets very, very difficult, mainly because you have to micromanage so many things, and you have to always keep track on people.
Okay. Charcoal kilns.
Because right now he's trying to make sure he's set on his resources, but he also has to try to manage his city at the same time, which is really hard because you always need to make sure people are in the right place, like I said earlier.
Okay, that's storage near capacity. Charcoal kilns are up. Next one we're going down to is charcoal kiln thermostat. We put our charcoal kilns on this lower section. On the further end away from the thing, because eventually those are going to be staffed by automatons.
So one more quick question: do you build lumber mills, or do you build the drills, the wall drills? I assume
you get the wall drills.
Wall drills. Okay,
the wall drills is the way to do it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we go to that exploration. That's where we get our first automaton that we send out to the city, and it eventually arrives in a while. When the automaton is actually found, that's when we actually stop to build the first wall drill. And there's a couple of buildings that are unstaffed down here at the bottom, and eventually people are going to come in later to do that, to actually work those, but they're just built in advance while I've thought about them. There we go.
Okay, so as you just noticed, it's getting steamy. That means the cold weather has changed. He went through a phase of a temperature drop. Now he's back to being a bit less colder. He still wants to make sure that he's getting ready. Like as the game progresses, because this is technically an auto-scroller, but it's an auto-scroller with a lot of difficulty, mainly because if you neglect something, then you will lose people, or you will lose track of your resources, which can also lead you to dying later on late game. He's just doing more events. He's also, yet again, when he has to send survivors back, and by that, escorting them, because if he just sends them back, he gets a reduced count or a reduced total of what he would have gotten if he just escorted them. And people in this game are super, they're just as important to coal, wood, steel. Like, they're probably the most important resource in the game, hands down.
Now, when you get an option like there to determine how you're going to handle a response to, I call these quests that pop up in the thing. Once you get a pop-up for that gives you an option of, oh, this might reduce hope, raise hope, affect your hope and discontent bars. If you have other methods of affecting the hope and discontent bars, you don't necessarily need to follow those things. Okay, let's stick this all the way out here. My SimCity placement is, I'm on different hardware, so I'm not as, it's taken me a moment more to be accurate with some of the mouse movements that I'm doing. So I have to think about them a little bit more.
Yeah, Okay, so he just activated a very, very important trigger here. This is the second part of the game. Or technically it's like midway point where a big event happens. So and to give some backstory of what's going on in this game and why that just happened, is this is a group of survivors that went to find an area to stay alive because the world's coming to an end, a winter apocalypse, because the sun isn't there, or the sun is still there, but temperatures are like reverse dropped, and now everything's frozen over. And there's these generators that have been built in the north to save humanity. And essentially all these people, presumably from England, are going to head to these generators and make a living, or try to stay alive and see if they can outlast the winter until things are back to normal. Essentially what happened is they were trying to find another city to prove that this works and it's not a bad idea. It's called Winterhome. But once they found out the Winterhome was dead, everyone lost faith, and now you have what's called the Londoners, a second faction that doesn't... The main focus is they're trying to leave and pull people away, and if a lot of your civilians leave, or a lot of your people leave, just like I said earlier, you're going to lose a lot of production. And the goal is you want to use the two trees that the game's given you. You have Law and Faithful. Sorry, Law and Faith, and they do two completely styles of play. His automaton's there now. He's got an automatic worker he can put on anything, which means he has more room to work with. But I'll let Gandair get back to what he was doing.
Yeah, the automatons make up the bulk of our workforce. So the beginning of the game is a little, difficult for that reason. That you don't have a lot of people, and once you actually get the automaton research going, then you're able to maintain a lot more production, because automatons will work 24 hours a day, and a normal person will not work 24 hours a day. I am... Where we at? Idiot House of Prayer build. You can see you can middle click your mouse button to change the... What's the word I'm looking for here? To change the...
Is it to rotate the building?
Yeah, the building rotation. Cool. I'm thinking like 20 things at once, because
right,
there's so much to consider here.
Yeah, yet again, this game is very... he's on easy, right? And that you would think, okay, this has to be an very easy run, which in reality, it can get harder. But honestly, where he's at right now, it's difficult, because he's trying to also go fast, and that's not easy to do. Because as you notice, there's a speed bar up the top that changes the game speed. Obviously, as a speedrun, you would optimally want to keep the game speed as fast as possible, but there's so many things that happen within that game speed that if Gandair makes, you already saw, if he makes one mistake, he gets punished severely for it. Which, this is why this is a very hard run with Deathless, because it's a very hard game on its own right. I was going to say something else I completely forgot, though.
And what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to work down the big tech options in the tech tree, like the tech tiers, because later on in the game I have so many other things to build that this is one of the few times that I actually have excess steel before I actually need to start upgrading houses in a big way. And now I'm waiting for my scouts to get back with another group of survivors so that I can get more of these buildings stocked. I don't start building the automatons until I go pretty far down the tech tree, because you need automaton integration for them to be as powerful as they can be, and that's something that's buried down in tier 4 and 5 of the tech tree. So trying to rush those is a big steel demand up front, which you really need to take care of during the day, or during the early game is what I meant to say.
So one thing big to mention, he also went Faith. For those who aren't aware, Faith is a very, very powerful tree to go down in terms of the purpose tree. With Faith, he can actually keep Discontent down. He'll start building it down and then start building Hope. As of right now, he's got Londoners gathering up, but as you can see with the Tendency tree, it's starting to lower it down just a little bit. At some point, once he gets enough of the tech tree or the laws unlocked into the purpose with Faith, he can completely shut down the Londoners, and by the time the Londoners leave, like it just went down again, he'll have complete control of the city, and Londoners Act will be done, which will be one of the big hurdles of the new home. When you first play, it's very difficult. You don't know how to handle it, and you seem like you just keep losing. Discontent went down, he just got an upgrade. He's upgrading infirmaries right now. Super, super important, because that's what keeps people alive in this game. Food can be a problem, but sickness is the killer. Okay.
Yeah, and everything stems from heat management, because heat is the cause of all of the problems. There's about 5 steam cores that just showed up,
nice.
And we're gonna use those to build a whole lot of things. We don't go to the gloomy cave. That's how you lose.
Yeah, isn't there like a random event where you roll the dice? And
it's a pure RNG on whether you get a death there during that or not.
Yeah, you go there. If you go there, there's an option where the game says, hey, you can go and try to save these people from bears or a bear. There's a chance you either lose your scouting party, but you say the people come back, or you don't lose the scouting party and you get the people. But it's really not worth the risk, because I don't know the percentage of what the luck is. It's just too much, though. Because to lose the scouting party is massive. Like, that's a lot of resources down the drain, as well as 5 people you lost for nothing, outside of maybe a couple kids and some adults. So there is a difference between workers, engineers, and children. Engineers are very, very important to have. Workers are also important, but engineers are very specialized. Oh, cemetery, okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Because we had that, I blinked earlier.
Right, oh yeah, I forgot. Okay.
I forgot too. I tried for you.
That's alright. I didn't see anything. So what he did there is he built a snow pit. Oh, I'm sorry, he built a cemetery. Excuse me.
Not a snow pit.
Oof. Yeah, had to make sure to get that one right. Because you want to bury the bodies. If you don't bury the bodies, there's sickness that can occur. People get more sick with dead bodies. I mean, that's kind of obvious. As well as you'll have discontent rising, and people are like, hey, what, you gonna do something about these corpses? I mean, what the heck?
Ooh. I haven't gotten that quest pop in a while. Yeah, I gotta see where all of my engineers are right now. I think I don't get my other group until I go to the other building. I don't have medical automatons yet, so we're gonna do this for a moment. That's a little bit of what I just did right there was a little bit of micromanagement, which is one of the things that in this game you have to sit and really pay attention to who's staffed and what houses where. And sometimes you have to dig people out of one building to get them into a different situation. And juggling the people back and forth between all of the different locations is quite the task. I get the factory started. Hey, scouts have reached the American camp. Awesome. Now, this exploration path over here is eventually going to lead us to another section of survivors, and that's the second section of survivors that we recruit and bring back. Went down. There we go. Nope.
Nice.
I meant to click over the other side and just totally didn't. Okay. Prosthetics. There we go.
Nice.
That's the one we want. Now that we're getting a factory built, we're going to get the prosthetic law signed, because we're going to need to start building artificial limbs to people so that we can get them back to work. because a person that suffers an amputation in this game due to the cold is not they're not down and out of society. You can get them a prosthetic and they can go back to doing things and still be a functional member of whatever counts for a society at this point. Okay, we got the factory finished. We're going down the automaton tree as quickly as we can here. Because the automatons work 24, as I mentioned, the automatons work 24 hours a day, but you have to build them. They are straight up robots.
Yeah, they demand quite a bit of resource. The most important resource in the I didn't mention another resource, but there's power cores in this game. Power cores are used to build very specific buildings as well as automatons. And obviously automatons being as good as they are, the only demand they have that has to be met is they have to recharge at the generator. But that's about it. They do their business, they're constantly working. So generally the strat here is to get a ton of automatons, like Gandair mentioned, and just use them to do all the production that would otherwise not be safe for your human workers to do. Okay, so right now he's getting a lot of prompts. He's reduced the tenacity to mutual. He's not bringing it down just yet, but he's no longer getting Londoners, which is good. Because eventually when the Londoners end, which there's a remaining day count, that event will end, and then you'll move on to the next section. But you're going to get a lot of prompts. It's pretty much Gandair, handling each prompt and trying to make sure that his faith is controlling the Londoners. Yep, see, there you go. It's a constant battle between discontent and hope as you go.
Now that one, there's an option there to send the Faith Keepers to do something about stolen food, and that's a chance for a death to occur in the game, and you want to minimize that as much as possible, because people get rowdy when people start dying.
Whew, it's getting a little toasty now. Thank God.
Yeah, it's nice to bring the temperature back up.
Yeah,
just a wee bit there.
A little cold there for a second. This game is very beautiful, by the way. If no one's played it yet, assuming in chat, you really should give this game a shot. It's a very, very gorgeous game.
Not Tesla City. Wait, we go to Tesla.
Yeah, I think it's Tesla City. You risk though, because Tesla City gives you the cores, and I think that's what the One Runner does, I believe.
I'm trying to remember. It's like I'm having this weird moment. Where, because the screen's in windowed mode, like my eyes go to a corner and see nothing for a moment.
Yeah.
And then I have to like mentally recalibrate. Like, wait, hold on. And it's I know that's the like 0th world problem to have right there, but it's it messes with your mental game a little bit. You have situations like that happen. Okay. I will open a new infirmary. Okay. Yeah. No, I've got that.
So actually, a quick question: does increasing the streamlining the automatons prevent them from crushing people, or is that will that occur?
Oh no, that's still absolutely a threat.
Still a thing. Okay.
The entire time. Yes.
No, does it kill anyone, or is it only amputation, or does it cause like amputee?
I do not remember off the top of my head, to be completely
I
honest.
don't think they kill. If they did, that would be I think rather silly. But yeah, he just got a new law, which means a new building, which means he can pretty much spam hope and discontent and control. Like he won't. Gandair's not gonna have to worry about discontent once he gets the perfect setup. Like right now, he's look, he's just destroying it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm almost in the end game for management of the discontent bar, because once you get the faith buildings up, people are into the prayers and the community aspects that we provide with what we are giving to our town.
They're getting some Jesus, or I guess Frosty Jesus.
I mean, it depends on what religion they are. There's a lot of options.
So I have to ask, do you want to talk about it, or should I talk about it? The when you go down a law or faith tree, the what is it? I forget what it's called. The bad ending, I think, when you become too powerful.
Oh, I know. I've actually never done the law.
I've never done it either.
So unfortunately, that's
Oh,
actually
no.
one of the things I can't comment on.
Dang.
Because I have not done that.
To give some perspective, when you go down these trees, the game says, hey, just so you know, if you go down further and further, this religion or this order becomes more dangerous. There's an end tree at the very top of each one that allows you to become literal god or literal, I guess...
Totalitarian dictator?
Exactly, that would probably be the best.
Let's put it nicely.
Yeah, the best way to put it. And of course you don't want that, because what happens is if you do go down that route, you cause a civil war within your city and people will die. And obviously you don't want that.
I was waiting for that quest that just popped up. There was a food theft that happened. If you have the Faith Keepers constructed, you can send the Faith Keepers, which are effectively priest cops, to go and do something about that, but there is a chance that they will die in the process. So by doing that, you risk having a death, and when you're doing the deathless category, you don't really want that. So I purposely wait until after that quest has spawned before I assign the law that will establish the Faith Keepers, because the Faith Keepers are really good for faith and discontent management. I mean, faith's in their name after all.
So one more question
Yes.
regarding the food issue. How many flying huts do you need for this run?
Some. I haven't actually done the hard math to know the
Gotcha.
the specific amount yet.
Do you have 2 right now?
I have.
I don't want
I
to
think
throw
I have
you off.
3 hangars.
3 hangars?
Three
Okay,
hangars
cool.
right now.
I just figured I'd ask.
We'll get prosthetics. We're actually about to start going down the food tree here.
Nice. Okay. So
Because now that we have the second wave of people coming into the town, now that we have the second wave of people coming into the town, that's when we're actually going to start
okay.
needing the food supplies. Because for a really long time in the game, you can get away with just having what's the one I'm looking for? Like 2 of them in one cookhouse. There we go. Okay, those folks are back. I'm going to disband that group in a minute. Because there's a certain point at which you don't need your scouts anymore. So once we get those 2, I can start going around and filling all of these buildings that don't have people in them. Once the second group gets through here, and then this is only a sort of a temporary thing, because there's a certain point where we're going to pull people back out of buildings later on in the game, but I don't really want to spoil what that is quite yet. Everything checks out there. That's still being built. Yeah, there we go. That's the automaton that's on the break. There's also a quest going on right now where one of the engineers will do the automaton project, where they will temporarily disable an automaton to research it and find out a way to make them more powerful, more efficient, and that increases the overall efficiency of your entire place. But during the process of doing that, there are... Wait, no, that's another theft one. Don't do that. We don't send the Faith Keepers to do that. There we go. Hit that button. Yeah, during the time that this discontent will rise. We picked this option because it doesn't have anything to do with the Londoner count. Right. The Londoners tendency down, so we don't want to do anything that's going to mess that up. And we can take a little bit of discontent rising from that for the moment, because we have a lot of good faith buildings built.
Nice.
We're upgrading our food income finally, now that we actually have those extra people here.
Man, I was really hoping for that sawdust. Dang. But
you need to bring the saffron. You gotta have the best seasonings to go with your sawdust.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not.
Or a little cannibalism would go a long way too. But I mean, hey.
There we go. Flying Hunter's gear. So we're getting down to the bottom of the food tree. Give him a steam core. No, that's where you stop when you're doing when you're doing this. You need your steam cores for other things.
Okay, so don't give it to him.
No.
Okay.
2. We got 2 left. One more wall drill. Where's that at? Wall drill. Drop that right there. Click this button.
So what Gandair's building now is a wall drill. The wall drill will infinitely farm wood as long as you're always working on it, and with an automaton, it's amazing, because generally with wood, you can do 2 things with it. You can keep building, or you can use charcoal kilns, and use the charcoal kilns to produce coal. And then you won't need to rely on coal thumpers, which are very, very dependent on workers. But you can also do automatons, but generally coal thumpers, you'll put people on them. Essentially, with the law or the order route, it's really good. All right.
Listen, everyone. New law.
But yeah, as you can see, faith is very strong. A lot of faith is about putting buildings in the right place, making sure you're clicking the abilities that faith provides constantly as it's off cooldown, and generally you'll be good. Like, the only time discontent becomes a problem is if you can't control it, it gets too large, and what happens is people will start saying, hey, you're a bad leader, you have 3 days to fix these problems, get the discontent down, and if you don't, you're gone, and effectively lose. Okay, so lots going on for Gandair right now. He's getting research upgrade for the generator, because at some point he's gonna need it, and by that I mean when the end game comes, he has to be ready for the storm.
Yeah, there's a big end game thing that happens, which I feel like you really need to be building towards the entire game, but throughout the course of the game, there are so many other problems that demand your attention before that ever happens in the first place that it's just not on your mind. And then when it hits you and you're not prepared for it, it's a little crazy.
Exactly.
So it's something that you need to keep in your head to some extent the entire time while doing everything else.
Yeah, on the first playthrough, you don't think about it at all. When the Londoners come, yet again, it's supposed to keep you busy trying to maintain order within the city. You don't think, okay, let's keep the city preserved in terms of heat. But, yet again, when the end game comes, like Andrew said, you won't see it coming, and it will be very, very painful on your first playthrough. Unless you're a god and somehow you can do it this perfect first time.
I'm finally getting the prosthetics going to get some of our townspeople back into a functional state, because just because someone is an amputee does not mean they can't contribute to greater society. And we're gonna give them some prosthetics and give them a spiffy robot arm where they can turn their arm either direction.
Yeah, this game's usually pretty depressing. The whole tone is supposed to be a very nihilistic, very no hope, and you're supposed to you're trying to make a city out of nothing, literal nothing, in a cold wasteland. So giving someone a prosthetic, huge ups. That's a nice thing.
We're only at minus 40 C. We're doing all right. Only at minus. I have a funny, maybe not funny, but there's a personal anecdote I like talking about with this game. Is when I first started playing this game, I live in the desert in Arizona, and it is not a place where it is supposed to get really cold. When I first started playing this game, I started the game and it was like, oh wow, the game starts out at minus 20. And I was like, wait a minute, we're having like an unearthly amount of cold where I live at. Wonder what temperature it is where I live at. Oh, okay, it's minus 14. This was supposed to be a game.
And it became reality.
Yeah, I was literally like putting things around like parts of my windows so that like the cold didn't creep in. I'm like, I can relate to these people and I shouldn't because I live in a desert. Why?
And it's what's terrifying about this game is like if you actually live in a pretty cold. I think the devs tweeted out something about like a very strong blizzard hitting I think Chicago or Minneapolis.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, because they posted it and it was like it was surreal, absolutely surreal.
Now I built a bunch of resource depots up here. Now these are something that we're going to use in the very late game. Towards the extreme end where you need to actually stockpile because a lot of your buildings turn off near the end of the game. There we go.
Nice, well done.
People don't want to leave for London anymore.
God bless.
They all just want to stay here and not go back to London.
Yeah,
We've convinced them that London is not the way.
Gotta stay warm, gotta stay toasty, gotta stay comfy. This is the place to be.
We provide comfy.
So the big thing is he completed the Londoners Act, so that's not a problem anymore. So he won't have a constant theft, he won't have discontent rising. In fact, Gandair, the rest of this run should be fine. He might have some minor discontent, but honestly, he'll be okay. His hope is so high that it would take a lot for him to like get that below. Like he would actually have to force it if he really wanted to get below his hope.
You know, sometimes I'm not entirely sure how you can tank the game at certain points on at least on easy difficulty.
Right.
Because I want to figure that out at some point just so I know exactly how much flex room I have to get into with this. Did I finish this tree yet? I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. No. Okay. Anything else in adaptation? I'm just walking down the tech trees real quick and seeing if we need anything. It looks like I got everything. Now this thing that I'm doing is mostly just for marathon safety, going and looking through all of those. Normally I would just leave it open because, as was mentioned earlier, this game runs at a set speed, and you can only lose time in it, which is kind of scary as far as a game goes. And the more time you spend in a menu, I mean, any RPG speedrunner knows all about that. When you have if you sit in a menu for too long, things just get gross.
Yeah, you always want to constantly have the game running at full speed. You want to minimize the amount of time looking. Of course, he wanted to check because yet again, if you don't have the right upgrades, it can make a huge difference. But as of right now, upgrade-wise in terms of laws, he should be fine. Like, there is some cool stuff in the game. You're not seeing it, like, but you can play this game in a lot of ways. And by a lot of ways, I mean, like, in several pathways. Like, if you want to build a city that's completely automatic, you can do that. You can build a city that's completely manual labor, do that. There's a lot of ways to play this game. Of course, for the speed run, we want to be as safe as humanly possible. I mean, of course, in a casual, you do the same, but in a casual, you probably would risk a little bit more.
I just built a ton of houses at once. I upgrade straight from tents to houses, and I don't do it until I actually get the house redesigned, and that's where we use all of our steel.
Right, and house is the biggest upgrade. Bunkhouse is second, right? Okay, yeah, I see it. Okay.
There we go. Solid range extension.
Yet again, big thing. Everything Gandair is doing is I'm trying to learn and digest while asking questions, and he's doing a pretty great job while doing that, and playing the game, and trying to give commentary. So.
You're doing a really good job of explaining all of the things that I don't have the cognitive capacity to get out of my mouth right now.
Don't worry, No, you're good. You've got this under control. You're doing a good job. Yet again, this game is not easy. Like, even on the easiest settings, it's very difficult. And if you really want to test yourself to the hardest limit, there's really good content to do that. I mean, hell, you can speedrun no survivor or survivor mode if you truly want to. For those out there who are feeling.
Oh,
brave.
yo! Speaking of that, I got a thing about this game. I got a tangent that I told a guy, Psychosis is his username, that I would go on. When I first got into playing this game, I went, well, I'll just learn any percent or something, because I mean, any percent's probably really easy. You can deal with a bunch of deaths, and it'll be not too big of an issue. And then when I went to go look up the game on the one known leaderboard for it, this here.
Okay.
Deaths don't count unless they're part of your town, so we're just gonna send these people somewhere else.
Savage, absolute savage.
No chill. Sorry, I can't risk my perfect city that's never had any deaths in it. It will be bad for morale. Go somewhere else.
I think what's even worse, you said no chill. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, did you pick up on that awful joke?
Yeah, they're going to get really chilly. Well, so, yeah, yet again, just to add on to what Gandair said, I'll get back to his tangent. This is another sequence of the game. Just like Londoners, you're going to get a crap ton of refugees, and they're telling you, hey, there's nowhere to safe to go. You can't go back. Like, you need to get out and get ready, because they're saying the storm is coming, which is the end game event. But I won't spoil it anymore. I guess maybe I've already spoiled it. My bad. I
mean, I feel like people kind of know. It's people that come here to watch Frostpunk are probably people that know about Frostpunk.
Yeah, I saw some people in chat.
That's a suspicion I have anyway.
Yeah, if you haven't played this game,
we can't afford it.
Yikes! Come on now. We can definitely afford it.
It only causes an amputation, as far as I know. To answer your question that you asked earlier, it's just that's where I'm at with it. Okay.
That generator is looking beefy though. I'm really shocked you could. So you don't go into heaters. You just focus on range, right?
Yeah, it's all done on just the
single generator.
It's all just done around the single generator, because you purposely don't recruit enough people.
So so heaters it doesn't make the difference. Okay, since you're using automatons, it makes sense to keep the houses in one central location for the range to hit. Okay.
There's another thing you can get away with on easy that you can't get away with on the other difficulties, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the run, is adjusting the generator temperature depending upon what time of day that it is. So I leave this on at full power, which on higher difficulties you absolutely cannot get away with that.
It consumes, and it's just a complete monster. Second wave.
Bye, folks. Good luck.
God bless. They're probably...
One day I'm going to misclick and hit the middle one.
Oh, no,
it's going to be not good.
Oh, it's going to be rough.
To finish the topic I went on, when I first looked at getting into to doing this game, it turns out that the person, I don't know who it was that made the leaderboard, that made the any percent category. Turn this off for a moment. We'll move him somewhere. Made the any percent category be survivor mode turned on. And that's kind of, if you haven't played survivor mode, there's no pauses, max difficulty.
Yeah.
It is scary. I am still figuring out how to finish it, because I don't really want to use a guide. I'm kind of trial and error and having a good time.
Yeah, it's really fun to learn. It's hard. It's very hard. The start is just right off the bat brutal. You can try to do the same strat for the easy, except it requires a really tight micro. And
so having the, having gone there, and I couldn't find an any percent strategy, because any percent was actually survivor mode. The closest thing I found was hero mode, which is the deathless category for the game.
Oh, right, yeah.
And any percent would basically be hero mode, but with deaths in it. But there's no place to actually put that in. Oh, I almost did it. I almost did it.
Only the healthy ones,
It
please.
popped up. That's the thing that can happen in the game is that you can, if it pops up as you click the mouse button, because of lag, sometimes you can hit it. And that's a little bit frightening of a prospect. So the any percent category on the internet is defined as being survivor mode, which is the hardest difficulty with no pauses allowed. The next closest thing to any percent is hero mode, which is deathless. And there's no place to actually put the in any like a hero mode with deaths allowed in it. It's a little bit weird, and we are sort of trying to get that issue resolved. I'm just looking down the tech tree to make sure
it's a very
I have everything figured out. And from what I understand, the people that made it, they kind of did it early on, I guess. And the other person I was talking to seemingly does not have the ability to change it from his end of the interface. So that's kind of what we're stuck with. And I'm like, can you let's let speed games be easy to get into, folks?
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at it, I was kind of like, this is a little strange.
So yeah, if you want to get into the game, go ahead and run the hero mode, because it's not so bad. You can play it on easy, and go ahead and play any percent anyway, because the moral of the story here is you can speedrun a game in any real way that you want to. You don't have to always be concerned with what's on leaderboards. Like my Diablo 3 Monk PB is like 59:40 something. It's just under an hour, but I know I can do better, so I haven't bothered posting it. I'm a little sad I didn't PB during the marathon. I was kind of hoping I would. But you know, things happen, and you can go out and do things yourself and not have to worry about it. So don't let other people's ideas of how to like speedrun or play a game really get you too much, because just go play it.
Have fun.
Stream it on your channel, make a YouTube video, and just don't worry about it, because it's at the end of the day, it's everything's a little bit arbitrary. So
Very well said.
should be on the same team more.
This is why Gandair is based. I mean, there's no question about it.
What I'm doing right now is I'm kind of letting things run, because I noticed I have a good equilibrium going with my coal and wood resources. Up at the top of the screen, equip him for the journey. Spends 30 food rations because a desperate father is going to go out and into the storm to try to rescue his daughter.
True hero. His
Yeah,
daughter,
I mean,
for whatever reason, was like, you know, this is a
everybody.
good idea. The storm's coming. I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Why not? I'm gonna go sightseeing.
Shout out to Hydration Bot. Yeah.
God bless. I love hydration. 8 hours, by the way, everybody. So-
Hydration Bot was useful to remember several times on my trip here. You know,
Yeah.
because I thought about, no, I'm good. And I'm like, well, what would Hydration Bot think? Hydration Bot would be shook. It would be disappointed. So another thing that's happened, So what I'm doing now is I'm watching my incomes. I'm going to start turning off certain buildings, and then seeing if I can still maintain a coal equilibrium at my generator running at the settings that it's on,
Ooh, it's
at
gonna
the
get-
range that it's on,
Yeah, it's about to get real cold
without
here
it
soon.
going down. And this is the part of the game where there's a few moments to kind of sit and think before everything gets absolutely ridiculous. So this is what I refer to as like, this is about like the 6 minutes in the run, where it started a couple minutes ago, but this is like the 6 minutes in the run where you actually have a few moments to talk, and this is usually where I spend time making sure things are working correctly.
It's getting a little chilly. I'm not liking
Just
it.
a wee bit. I think I'm done with steel at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. What's on over here? That still has people on it. So since I'm done with steel, I'm going to turn off the steel buildings. I'm going to put an automaton on the coal, so that way I don't have any people working in the cold anymore. Now, the reason these charcoal kilns were built out into the cold portion of the map is because they were going to be staffed by automatons later on. And automatons, they don't care about the cold. They will work in any temperature that you give them.
Yeah, the big thing is he's trying to optimize his build placement, which is super important, because what he's doing in this, and Legacy, you can play it different ways, but Gandair is going for the generator range upgrades instead of heaters. Heaters and
Instead of
steam hubs. Sorry,
hubs.
I don't know why I said heaters.
We do use heaters. As I was
Okay.
going down my my checklist there,
Yeah,
that was one that didn't get checked yet, which we don't need
Okay.
until the storm hits.
Right.
So it's okay if It's okay if you get that one late, as long as you get it.
Okay,
there.
I was actually going to ask about that at some point.
Yeah, this is the bookkeeping portion.
Nice. Okay.
Well,
We're going to warm up a little bit, but things are going to get pretty dicey here soon.
we can take off one of our several sweaters at this point. I think this one's the safe one.
I'll have this ready. I'm ready to stay warm.
There we go. Yeah. Heater chain's the only thing that I need to do. Wrap that one up pretty quick. I've shut down the factory since we're no longer building automatons anymore. I mean, if I wanted to be really safe, I could, you know, pop some engineers in there, build a few prosthetics in case something weird happens. But there is a point where you can shut down your steel. There is a point at which you can shut down your workshop production because you'll have all the research you need. There's a point where you won't have to open the Book of Laws anymore. And then you can have some buildings closed. Now, when you shut down a building and unstaff it, people will still go out and do things during the day, and on certain difficulties this can be problematic. Your building placement becomes more important on higher difficulties because the distance that people have to walk in the cold has a serious effect on their health, which, you know, that's cold, stems from heat, turns into sickness, turns into dead bodies. We don't like dead bodies, generally speaking. The medical industry really enjoys them for research purposes.
Pretty good, yeah. There is an upgrade you can use called organ, is it transplant, or is it,
Yeah,
I think it's organ transplant. I think it's in the other tree. It's with the cemetery. I wouldn't worry about it. I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
Sorry about
If
that.
I didn't find it on the first try, oh well.
Yeah. But yeah, there's an upgrade essentially where you can, you don't necessarily need dead bodies, which is ironic. Essentially, the upgrade allows you to, you rise discontent, but your medical efficiency goes up, which is one strategy you can do. If you go different pathways with children laws, you can actually increase your medical efficiency in tents by a lot, which allows you to heal people much faster. So if they get sick, you can get them back out very quickly. But of course, like, there's different ways to doing it. Gandair went cemetery because he just had to get the bodies that he had earlier on out of the city as quick as possible without suffering too much, because he doesn't want to overcrowd. If he overcrowds, it'd be counterintuitive. He gets discontent, and it's just not a good idea. Because he also needs very specific medical upgrades like sustained life, care for the sick, as well as prosthetics.
Yeah, the beginning of the game is is the most difficult. Getting that initial semblance of stability going is really important because things can spiral out of control very fast at the beginning of the game. The Londoners portion seems really sketchy because your Londoner count generally goes up before it goes down. And then later on, when you get to the Storm portion, that's when things can kind of unravel again. Something I did a few moments ago in game is I hit all my faith cooldowns because we'd lost a little bit of hope in the process of the sort of denying the refugees access to our wonderful exclusive club. And that affects the hope meter. When the storm hits, you want to have all of your faith cooldowns available because the storm hitting on its own takes a big chunk out of your hope bar, and discontent can come up. When you're completely like discontent bankrupt like this, it's not so bad, at least at this point in the game. Also, this facility right here, the Faith Keepers facility, the cooldown continues even if the building is turned off. So you can staff people in it. This question. Give away 500 wood. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But the Faith Keepers building, you can staff it just long enough to use the cooldown on it, and then take all the people out of the building. And what just happened, there was a quest there where you had to give away wood, and that's the reason I built one resource depot for wood, because the starting cap that you have for your wood is not high enough to satisfy the requirement for that quest, which is awkward. The first time I hit that, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, there's no gatherable resources in range of the sawmill anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and dismantle that. I'm looking at where people are working now. There we go. Putting regular workers into cookhouses. We got 2 days in game until the no residents in there, so I don't need that. The reason I built the care house like way out of the way is because you generally end up not needing it at the end of the game. This facility's closed. I'm still at good wood and coal like equilibrium. I have an automaton on a wall. I have 2 automatons on wall drills. I have 3 automatons on charcoal kilns with the fully upgraded charcoal kilns and the fully upgraded gathering on the automatons. And that is able to maintain the coal supply for the generator the thing is at. The storm hits the city. The city must survive. There are certain buildings that stop working once you get to this point, and you have to turn the heaters on in some buildings as well.
Yeah, it's gonna get really, really cold here soon, if not already.
So we're going to straight dismantle our hunter huts. Now, if you simply turn off a hunter hut, people will still walk to it for some reason. I don't know what it is in the programming or what it is in other things that cause that to happen, but people will still walk to the building that they're assigned to, even if the production is shut down. I guess they just go there and hang out or something because they're on the schedule for that day. The only really way to keep that from happening is by going and actually dismantling the buildings themselves in order to make sure that people do not go into them.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Gandair. I'm getting a little cold, though.
It is absolutely frigid right now. What I just did there, I staffed it, used the cooldown, unstaffed it immediately afterwards. Now, there are a lot of... What I'm doing now is I'm just kind of staring at the screen, watching for things to pop up on it. Because here, this is... You have to survive the storm. Now, if your build's a little, like, awkward, then you're going to have a lot of things to respond to during this time. If it's not, which mine stabilized fairly well, it's with the heater on. Are you serious? Oh, I built that back a little further. Not really anything I can do about that. I wonder if I can get those into this other... Do I have any patients in here? No. Do I have any patients in here? No. Oh, they're all fine. They're just frostbite. Okay. I think I might have to kill this care house and put it somewhere else. Okay, we're gonna do some strange things here real quick. We're gonna take apart a couple buildings. It's in the health tree. House of healing. Put that there. Is that? Oh, is that still out of range?
Whew. Man.
Usually I build it one tile closer than that. Oh no, it's fine. Okay.
All right,
fine.
nice.
Okay, turn the heaters on in these.
Yeah, pretty much the heaters are going to keep a lot of his care houses as well as houses from... obviously, he's doing as best he can to keep everything warm. There's going to be a point in the storm, though, where he's going to have to stay... he's going to hit the maximum, like, temperature drop, and it's going to get really, really brutal. This is hence why you need automatons, because they'll keep the city from losing coal and your generator won't shut down. Because if you had people working at this time, you would have to hope that you have enough resource deposits to keep going, and then you would have to just hope for the best. Yet again, the game builds a lot of tension at this point, and if you're playing it casually, you are definitely going to have to be ready.
Okay. When all those little ice things show up,
There it is.
that notify that something's freezing, you have to actually turn on the overdrive. This is the only time in the game you really have to use the overdrive on it. Otherwise, everyone gets frostbite, everyone gets gravely ill, and just people die. The whole town just gets obliterated.
Monkey ass.
And you don't have a lot of time to flip that switch. On higher difficulties, you want to switch it before then. Let them stay home. You don't want people to get sick. You don't want people to die.
Yeah, everyone's gonna take some time off, relax, and chill at home and hope for the best.
Also, automatons can cook in a cookhouse. I didn't realize that until, like, my second week playing this, like, speedrunning this game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's kind of neat. I want robots to cook my food. That'd be great. I want human servers, but I want robot cooks.
Just dropping off at the...
Can you imagine getting a perfect steak every time
Oh
from
my
a robot
God.
cook?
This
Good Lord.
this would be a great city. Also, the city has to survive. It must survive.
That's the one objective. You know, it's to survive the storm at this point. And you see every once in a while the game slows down. There are arbitrary periods of time where... Oh, this part. I don't know. Let them stay home. There's arbitrary periods of time of day, I believe at midnight, and I think 6 a.m., where it resets to normal speed, and you have to just camp that button and like mash it and reuse it. It's a miracle. That guy we sent out
Wow.
into the waste found
He
his
actually
daughter.
found his daughter.
She's
That's
back.
nice job.
Shoutouts to good parenting. Now this can actually explode. Oh, I got.
Whoa,
I
wow.
didn't quite
Oh.
make it. Okay.
Ooh.
The idea is I want to turn the overdrive off right before that pop-up because that way you you save time by not having to interact with that that object that
Right,
popped up.
that
when
makes
this had
sense.
happened.
And time's coming up here soon.
Yeah, time will be coming up quite soon.
Nice, gotta get that extra little faith in Frosty Jesus. Ooh. No one.
Work ceases. Yeah, there's a point where no one will go to work.
Yeah, no one will go out
Literally
anywhere.
horrible indicators, but thankfully it's just a big tease.
Everyone getting sick for just a microsecond. You panic at this point, hope for the best. But thankfully he's good. He's got 210 people freezing.
Time is on a
but
certain text box. There we go. Time.
time.
The storm ends.
We survived, everybody. Ooh. Whew. Okay, I can take these off. I'm not cold
Yeah.
anymore.
That's what any percent looks like.
Jesus.
Just beating the game. And the automatons really make it happen because you don't need to worry about your coal supply during the thing.
We have survived, but who is we?
One small thing to add: the reason you don't use coal mines is because coal mines have a chance to become inoperable for a period of time,
Yep.
and you need the constant influx. I mean, unless you have like enough resources, like gathering posts built, to soak that. But in certain situations, that's not going to be an option. Now we're looking for a particular ending here. There should be text comes up that says, "And yet we haven't crossed the line," and that's how you know you got the good ending.
Yep.
For the game.
Because
Also, this segment here, the entire build, the entire game replays.
And it's super cool.
And it's the way that you did it. It's not like a pre-recorded or anything. The way that you built it replays right in front of you. And this is so cool to watch on like higher difficulties because you might have been juggling save files for weeks trying to finish it, and then you get to just see the whole thing like unfold in front of you again. It's pretty cool. The audio changes, the use of strings in this game to create tension, and the sound effects of the things happening really adds to the atmosphere of it. The sound direction and design for this game is absolutely fantastic. And you don't get deep strings in a lot of soundtracks these days. I know World of Warcraft used a lot of it. Or was it going to happen?
Yeah, I
Did we
think
get the good ending?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, look at that. That's the good ending.
Oh, nice.
That's how we know we did it.
Yet again, if you don't have this game, I 100% recommend to go buy it.
This is not a style of game I usually enjoy, but
Yeah,
holy
exactly.
cow, I really, really liked it.
It's a very strange game that would catch a lot of people off guard because, yet again, it's a city sim, but a survival city sim that has a lot of passion in it. It's also very comfy to play. Well, sometimes, not always.
Yeah, it depends on how cold it is outside when you're playing.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
Sometimes it just taunts
Don't
you.
play it during wintertime. That's you don't. If you want 100% immersion, turn the AC down in your house, or just wait for winter.
Yeah, that's all I got for you. That is Frostpunk 80%.
Thank you for the run, Gandair. That was absolutely great. I learned quite a bit. And
Hey, thanks for explaining things when I had too much in my brain. I
you're good.
appreciate it.
You're good. It's a
super
hard game. But yeah, thank you for doing the run.